This one is going to be a little bit harder to talk about. At least to me, it's a little bit harder to talk about because of the subject matter. But it says Millie Bobby Brown says media reaction to her turning 18 was gross. I think that is prevalent in all of Hollywood, and not, this is not a topic. I try not to, we don't try to get super serious on here, but it's also worth noting that we call out this stuff because Hollywood is a very indecent industry. But it says this also goes back to culture, because the media tries to both call it out, which is weird because they're calling out themselves because they're printing the article.
But they're acting like they're calling out the public instead of themselves.
There's a paragraph in one of these articles that I took very big issue with. So it says, Millie Bobby Brown says the media reaction to her turning 18 was gross. She has spoken out about the gross sexualization, there we go, she has experienced throughout her career. Now, mind you, she just turned 18 a couple months ago. It says the actor turned 18 in February and was just 12 years old when she was cast in the Netflix hit sci-fi series Stranger Things. Brown opened up about the challenges of growing up in Hollywood and then how growing up in the spotlight has put this into perspective. She was on a podcast called The Guilty Feminist, which might tell you everything you need to know about
the type of questions they were asking.
Yes. It says, I've definitely been dealing with that a lot more in the last couple of weeks of turning 18, the actor said. I'm definitely seeing a difference between the way people act and the way the press and social media react to my coming of age. It's gross. I don't know if she is from an acting family or if she had a normal, if she's been one to experience.
I think her dad is a British actor.
Okay,
so be wrong.
So she's not privy to one of the things that I have a problem with is a lot of Hollywood is this weird projection where what they think is gross because they see it within their own culture, they then extrapolate that to mean that they think the whole world is tarred with that same brush, is kind of painted with that same brush.
Yeah.
I take issue with that. She said that her experience in Hollywood is a good representation of what's going on in the world and how young girls are sexualized. I have been dealing with that, but I have also been dealing with that forever. That is not the world. That is Hollywood. Right now, we're seeing that with stuff going on with Disney, and we don't want to rob kids of their innocence. But Hollywood is always somehow standing simultaneously on a moral high ground and doing stuff that
they're perpetrating it.
Yes.
And then pointing blame at us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Hollywood is responsible for a lot of it, but it does trickle down into all aspects of culture
because they affect culture through what they do. So they're actually perpetrating it. That's even worse.
It's not that it happens only in the Hollywood bubble. It's just that the Hollywood bubble is the most extreme, and sort of what leaks out of it still affects every day.
We covered Cole Sprouse the other day, and what he talked about the horrors of being a child actor. Now that wasn't explicitly stated in that one, but you know what they're talking about. What they're talking about when they talk about these situations. So it says Brown expanded on her experience with being sexualized before she was an adult, recalling a time when she was crucified for wearing a low-cut dress to a red carpet. Isn't she doing that by wearing it?
Doing what by wearing it?
Saying she was being sexualized, but she's they're playing into it in a way.
I think it's a little bit of both. I do think she's 15 and wearing a low-cut dress to a premiere. People might be like, well, that was a bold choice. The same way if she was just an average American wearing a low-cut dress to prom.
Yes.
Right? It's just that there are more eyes on her.
Yes.
And so it's I would be more nervous about it. The other thing that she's come under fire for is having boyfriends that are she'd be 15 and they would be over 18.
We have the weird relationship between her and Drake that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
They're what was it again? That they
had a weird friendship, I guess.
I have this article. It says why fans are concerned about Millie Bobby Brown and Drake's friendship. You should. I mean, it's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very weird.
She got a huge I don't know. People were really like, "Hey, you should watch what you're saying." When that TV show or that Netflix show You came out. And it's about a guy who stalks a girl and is obsessed with her. And she's like, but he just really likes her. And you're going to be like, you're a baby. Please stop.
Please stop that. You're encouraging that behavior. It says, Brown and Drake are among the weirdest celebrity duos maybe ever, as Cheat Sheet notes that a massive 18-year age gap between them, which has given fans of Brown, in particular, major cause for concern. The Stranger Things star and Canadian rapper first crossed paths in Australia in 2017 and have been close friends ever since. At the 2018 2018 Emmys, Brown gushed, "I love him. He's honestly a great friend and a great role model. You know, we just texted each other the other day and he was like, I miss you so much. I was like, I miss you more."
Like, she was so naive that she said the quiet part out loud.
It's weird, okay? Like,
and then he's great. I'm definitely gonna see him. I'm so excited. Like,
I just
he
picture
must have
him.
thought like, oh no.
Yeah.
Why did she say that?
But it's also like, why are you are you doing that?
She
like,
also
I'm glad
admitted
she said
that
something.
he was giving her like dating advice, like boy advice.
Nope.
And people were like, what advice is this, like, close to 20 years older than you man giving you?
It says, although there's no reason to believe that there's anything romantic going on between Brown and Drake, as Jezebel argues, their relationship is inappropriate at best. I mean, if they were working together, it would, I mean, still that saying was inappropriate.
But they weren't. They had no pretext to be talking
They're
at
just
all.
hanging out and talking.
Weird.
And
like, it's just weird. That's all that, like, it's not okay. It's weird. But you know what? Millie Bobby Brown talking about being sexualized in Hollywood makes me think of like the people that were on TV when I was younger. And I just watched this YouTube long deep dive into Hilary Duff, who was like the screen queen. And I remember her being popular, and she had the show.
She's like the most normal out of all those people.
She was dating Joel Madden, who was 25 when she was 16.
That,
and we all were just
that
like,
stuff was considered like so normal.
Wait, and then it reminded me of when Kylie Jenner dated Tyga, one of the rappers.
Tyga.
And it was like he was like over 20 and at her 16th birthday party, and they were like, they're just good friends. He's just with her all the time. They're just posting Snapchat
totally
stuff
normal
together at 3 a.m. on a weeknight. Like, weird.
Clearly, the Kardashian Jenner family does not have any male influence or like protective influence in
any sense. And like, it just is super obvious to me that like these girls who are working, you know, being expected to act extremely professionally, work long hours at young ages, are then like, well, I'm an adult, so why can't I date someone that old? Like,
they are treated like adults.
They are treated like adults, and it's just this thing where like you want to shake their momagers and be like, what are you doing?
The funniest thing about the article, because they were talking about her clothing, first of all, there's this article from Life and Style. It says Millie Bobby Brown is 13 going on 26, and we're all a tad concerned. She looks really
they're even doing her makeup to make her look older in that photo. She's only 13, and they were like carving out contour on her face to get rid of that like baby fat look that any child has.
What I found really interesting is when I was just looking through her IMDb, and in the trivia section it says her mom picks out all her clothes to make sure that they're age appropriate. I'm like, then her mom is very bad at her job.
Yeah. She had a plunging neckline that was like over her rib cage. Is that age appropriate for 15-year-olds?
No, it's crazy.
Now?
I think it's hard. Like, I will say, and I really wish that we had like the mom of a middle schooler on the show to comment on it better than me. But like, I do think that it is a really difficult time. Like, I think between like 13 and 15, it's very difficult to like judge middle school fashion. I'm not saying that what she was wearing was appropriate, but like, it's a huge transition for girls, and like, it's a time that like I think their parents have to balance encouraging them to be confident and independent and still protecting them, right?
Yeah.
Like, I am fearful to raise middle school children.
Of adolescence that is kind of being erased right now.
Yeah,
you kind of
that's
have
exactly
to transition from child into adult, and there's no in between. And there's no room for any type of like boundaries in the middle.
And I think it's always natural, right? Like, if you're a 12-year-old, you're going to look up to the 17-year-olds, 21-year-olds, you know, who are in media and stuff like that. I don't think it's that unusual. It's just that like she had the opportunity to be sort of a role model for this in-between period, and instead the people on her team encourage her to be a small adult. And that's dangerous.
That's reminding me of JoJo Siwa, who we were talking about yesterday.
It's in the opposite.
Who, until even this day, is dressing like she's 11 years old. Because her audience is children,
still
but
11.
then it's like, how do you jump from that to being an adult? Like, why is there no in-between stage?
They almost need to like go away for a period of time and then come back. Like,
well, that's almost what they're being told
worse.
to do, is like just if you're not an adult or a child, like, and you fit cleanly into one category or the other, just go away.
You can either be tiny and cute, or you can be an adult lady who we will sexualize. But there's no in between, and like that, I think
there is no in between in these industries.
Just because they don't want it.
You can't. In a visual industry like this, they're not going. It's not going to work.
But like there should be like
she's like the face of Calvin Klein.
It's crazy.
She,
Millie Bobby Brown?
Like the face of
She should
Calvin
be like,
Klein.
I don't
know. It said in one of the articles that she was like the face of Calvin Klein now.
She might be.
Or something like that. So like,
but she should be like the face of like what's a middle school American Eagle, right?
Yeah.
Something like
she should be the face of things that are relevant to her, like and be the leader of that demographic and like carve out in culture that there is like a place for young women who are not yet adults. Like
she had like a skincare thing.
She still does. I think it's called Bounce, and that's cool. Like it's relevant to her age group and whatever. I just think that like she is totally right that she was sexualized. I remember again, I just watched this thing on Hillary Duff, so it's hard for me not to draw comparisons. But again, they were popular right in the same age range. And there was some guy on like normal morning talk show interviewing Hillary Duff and was like, so I hear you have a big birthday coming up. I hear you have a big birthday. Which one is it? 18? Yeah. I bet a lot of people are excited for that. And it's like, so
that's really creepy.
I want to die. Ew. That happened to the Olsen
twins.
The
Olsen twins. We've mentioned that several times. They had a countdown on MTV to their 18th birthday. But I'm sure not weird at all.
But I'm
Hollywood.
sure that happened to her. And I like, that is so weird.
Yep.
But at the same time, before she turned 18, there were already people talking about this because of the Drake thing. And then also when she would be either getting dressed by stylists or by herself older than her age, she would get mad at people for saying like, hey, maybe this isn't appropriate. And
she says that right here. She says, she said, Brown also recalled on the podcast she was crucified for wearing more mature outfits on the red carpet. I thought, is this what we really should be talking about? We should be talking about the incredible people that were here at this award show.
Yeah. Like, there are more important things to talk about than the fact that you're getting sexualized.
But people aren't going to do that.
Okay, but the thing is, like, I go back to my example of like a low cut dress at prom, right? Like the teenage girl who tries that on and her mom's like, that's not appropriate. You can't wear that. She might be like, I'm almost an adult. Like I should be able to wear it. Like teenagers.
But it's that multiplied by 1,000.
It's by 1,000. Like I think her reaction is actually totally normal and somewhat age appropriate, I would say. Like she has been working really intensely for a long time. She feels like she's almost an adult. Like she wants to be able to dress more maturely. I don't begrudge her those things.
Yeah.
It's just that like she was also in a position where everyone around her profited off her
looking older than she was.
And that's upsetting and not okay.
Well, especially when the first time that we were all exposed to her image was when she was what, like 11?
Yeah.
12. I think they said Stranger Things she was
something
like
12. And also made to look younger than her age for that role as well.
In 2020, it's not all just that part of it. It's just the general hurtful comments. Like I can't imagine ever wanting to be a celebrity of that level, trying to have a social media presence, because it's just like there is just the law of averages says that you're going to get a great number of just heinous shit thrown at you.
I also like for a long time my position was like, well, they just shouldn't have one until they're 18, but then like they are missing out on opportunities to make money.
Not to mention that doesn't prepare them for dealing with it. Not letting, I guess like you have to be 13, I think, to have like an Instagram or something like that, like as if they can actually stop you from
it was the same thing on Facebook, but like I had Facebook before I was 13.
So. She wrote, I get frustrated from the inaccuracy, the inappropriate comments, the sexualization, and the unnecessary insults that ultimately have resulted in pain and insecurity for me. I understand, but I also that's the world we live in now, where you have to learn to either deal with it or choose that it's not for you, that you just don't want to. But in her industry, how do you do that? She's part of that mainstream culture that could probably do it without ever having to look at it. She could just have a PR person or a social media manager do the posting for her without having to worry about what's said, right?
But she's a teenager. She wants to be on social media.
She wants to be involved. So she's kind of, by virtue of being famous, not given the option to have a normal, and even what is a normal social media experience. But even for her, she will not get anything close to that, where you only get a couple of hateful comments a week rather than hundreds of them hurled at you every time you post something. So I don't envy anyone living in that position, especially if you had to grow up into that world. It's not something I would have ever wanted to experience, that is for sure.
No, but I still think like I really hope everyone in culture looks at these girls who are like between the ages of 12 and below 18, and just like anytime anyone says anything weird, we just acknowledge how strange and wrong it is.
Exactly.
Because I feel like, and especially I've been obviously very affected by this Hillary Duff thing that I watched, but like I can't believe we have how many of these like teen celebrity icons have publicly dated kind of secretly people who are in their mid 20s, not even like, oh, she's 15 and he's 18. Like they could theoretically have met in the same high school, right? Like, no, it's weird.
Yep.
And we just constantly let these things go as like, oh, well, if we comment on it, we're being bad feminists.
I dislike the switch up that happened where everyone was calling it out and saying it was inappropriate, specifically with Millie Bobby Brown. And then the second she's 18, then it's turned around and the blame is pointed on the same people who were saying it was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, but you were perpetrating it. Like, because we weren't.
But that's the thing. Like, she has been very intense about, like, I would say, embracing the idea that she's a feminist, and therefore, like, us saying that she was wearing something inappropriate is anti-feminist.
Yeah.
I could not care less about feminism. I have to say it. Like, it's not for me. But I think that is also a corrupt system telling her, like, do you know why you felt bad? It's because people didn't let you express yourself the way you wanted to. Instead of it being like, yeah, the thing is, the people who were telling you that wearing whatever, being low cut, hanging out with this 26-year-old man was good, are not looking out for your best interest.
Nope, they're looking out for their ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we'll see. I find these cases fascinating, particularly because I'm always looking at it as like somebody the other day we were doing a meeting with an ad, talking about having an ad for the show, and they're like, how do you describe what you do here, right? And part of it is, we're laughing at what's going on in these industries because it is absurd, but there is a lot of actual discussion to be had about how it is cycled through the media, through the complex of these production companies, the social media managers, all the things that make what we call popular culture happen, and then how it then gets put back on the public in the most divisive way possible. And I don't even know how to really accurately put what I find fascinating about it into words, but I know that it's real because stuff like this is a perfect example of like you're blaming society. Somebody else might say that it has something to do with feminist beliefs. Another person could say it is the production companies that are taking advantage of you. And I think on some level, every single one of those claims is true. It's a matter of who has the power to speak it the most loud to the public. And I think that's something that we need to have these discussions.
Well, and I think Millie Bobby Brown's like predicament that she's in, and I think some of it is very real. Like, it is difficult from being like a small, like cutesy middle schooler to being like a young woman in the public eye and like being judged. Like I think those things are real, but I think it's also interesting to have her talk about it. And for men, especially like young men who don't have kids, look at it and be like, like we should have been looking out for you. Like the stuff that was happening that we thought was okay was not okay. Because I think so often like it's uncomfortable for men who like, they don't want to seem creepy. They don't want to talk about this middle school girl.
I didn't even want to talk about this today.
But like at the same time, like hopefully all of you guys will grow up and be dads one day and have middle school girls and have to see the balance of like wanting, her wanting to appropriately age and grow up and also wanting to be like, how do I talk to you about the fact that like not everyone in the world is looking out for you, and they'll tell you, oh, it makes you more liberated to act this way.
There is an agenda from everyone that is, I guess, almost everyone will have to deal with some type of agenda when somebody's pushing you in a certain direction. Yeah. Right. So thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.